You can't catch all 150 Pokemon by yourself.
So close.
You need a friend to trade with.
What's he doing?
Electronic Pokedex for Master Trainers. From Aber to Zubat. Master them all.
Weedle's number? 13.
150 Pokemon with all the best fighting moves. Electronic Pokedex for Master Trainers.
Hoy there, Zilik here. You have been wondering, how come Pokemon Red and Blue are known as iconic games though I don't really hear about them much these days? I'm sure it's because people are tired of hearing it all the time, though I'm different. I like to dive further into the game and how it became reality while discussing my thoughts on it. Pokemon is phenomenal both casually and competitively, from trading cards to games to Monopoly. Pokemon has brought people together for a long time, and it's what made me, me. This series means so much to me, so that's why I'll be discussing the start of Pokemon and discussing the first entries, Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow, and if they were good as they claimed back then or not. It all started in the 90s, 1990 to be exact, when one guy pitched a game idea of collecting battling monsters to Nintendo, and that guy is no other than Satoshi Tajiri. He came up with the idea from his childhood days of collecting bugs. Nintendo employees then found the idea quite peculiar, but a certain notable guy, Shigeru Miyamoto, believed the idea has amazing potential. A few years later, these games were first released in Japan in 1996 and became a phenomenon over there. Over in North America, we got a taste of it with the anime, though I wasn't really interested in the anime that much personally. But when 1998 rolled around, it came. Though it released in Japan in February 27, 1996, plus they went with Pokemon Red and Green with Venusaur on the cover instead of the Blastoise Blue one we have here, and it didn't get released in the US until strange. My personal experience with Red and Blue, though I haven't played them when they were new because, well, I didn't exist back until the 2000s, though I did start with the 2004 remake Fire Red and Leaf Green, Fire Red specifically, so I know about the game a bit. My only exposure to the original is old YouTube videos at the time. I only really played the 3DS Virtual Console release. I had a fair share of fun with it, even now replaying it. But the thing that catches my attention is the game's reception in the community. But let's not focus on that. I'd like to tell you about how I feel about the games themselves. A brief overview of Pokemon Red and Blue. You travel through the Kanto region, capturing and training Pokemon along the way. The goal is to become the Pokemon champion. What did you thought I'm gonna say, fight gods? Well, what makes these games so special, really? Let's break it down. The first thing you'll notice is the graphics. Yeah, they might be outdated now, but I know they have some dumb charm to them. The Pokemon sprites are pretty crude, especially in the Japanese original. Yes, but hey, it's the Game Boy, you gotta work with this funny brick somehow. While the game is functional, it is notorious for its glitches, like Missing No for example. Everyone has heard Missing No at some point, as well as the spawnable Mew glitch and one that lets you beat the game early. Some glitches are fun, some are weird. I think these glitches develop a life on its own in the internet culture, saying it as this mysterious spooky glitch. Next up is the music, and oh boy, I'm a sucker for 8-bit. The catchy tunes of each place has become iconic and are still beloved by fans today. To the fun route themes, to peaceful town themes. Yeah, peaceful. And of course, we can't forget about the Pokemon themselves, with the starters of these games being Bulbasaur, Charmander, and Squirtle. They're pretty iconic, meaning that at least your dad recognizes them at least. Bulbasaur is pretty cute, considered to be the least popular one, but that changed in a couple of years or so. Maybe too much, still pretty neat and cute. Charmander, the most popular one, though I think most are too rough with this guy. I mean, yeah, getting it shoved in your face gets pretty annoying, but so are mosquitoes, so which one is really worse? And finally, Squirtle. Pretty cool turtle, I like how it looks. All around, these are pretty neat starters, though out of the ones from other games, the Kanto starters are pretty middle of the road / I'll choose whatever kind of trio. Still pretty good starters all around though. For your second evolution, Ivysaur is the one I like the most, honestly. Just look at it. Charmeleon is alright, it's pretty much Charmander but bigger, but I can dig it. And Wartortle is a fun, cute design, pretty much Squirtle but in its awkward teenager phase. Now for the third starters. Venusaur is a big old flower toad. How cool is that? Charizard, even if it's pretty redundant, I still think it's pretty neat. Yeah, it has the curse of popular equals bad within the community, but personally, I see it as a neat, iconic, not dragon. Blastoise, turtle, cannons, yeah, there's pretty much my favorite design out of the bunch. Even its Japanese name is cool, Kamix. And in yellow, you get Pikachu, the world famous mascot. Love this funny little mouse. In the early days of Pokemon, Pikachu was more chubbier looking, which is adorable. The modern design is cute, but the older design has a lot of charm. Now stepping aside the starters, the rest of the original 151 has become cultural icons and are still some of the most recognizable characters in pop culture. Eevee, Dragonite, Gengar, Pikachu, not Pikachu. Eevee is pretty cool. In this game, it can either evolve into Flareon, Jolteon, and Fidel Castro. He's my favorite water-type Pokemon. My personal favorites are some like Ninetales and Kabutops, and yes, some are mostly just rock but bigger, or orb becomes 3 orbs, but they're fine. I don't think it's as bad as everyone says. Also, there are trade evolutions like Gengar and Alakazam. They're cool, but I feel bad for the people who can't get them because they have no friends, and the trade Pokemon are pretty strong. And the fossils, they're fine. I can talk about the Pokemon all day, but how does these games relate to the show? Well, both have red guys with caps, and they do what you expect them to do. Catch Pokemon and challenge gym leaders. Well, what about the game itself? A brief summary of the story. The game takes place in Kanto, like real-life Kanto in Japan. In the Pokemon universe, Kanto is most known for creating Pokemon out of technology like Mewtwo and Porygon, for example. Probably based on Japan's growth in technology at the time, but that's a bit of a stretch. You play as a guy, Red. You meet Professor Oak and he gives you a Pokemon and stuff. And there's your rival, and Oak's grandson, mostly called Blue or Gary. He likes smelling you later. Later, you meet the antagonists, Team Rocket. No, not those guys. Except in yellow. Pretty awesome actually. Couple shenanigans later, and Dead Rat later. Once you visit the last gym in Viridian City, hey, it's the leader of Team Rocket, Giovanni. After beating him, he says screw it and disbands Team Rocket. Yeah, it's that simple. To get people to stop stealing Pokemon, call their leader Stinky. Easy. After beating all 8 gym leaders, Red heads up to the Indigo League, where the strong guys are. After getting done with them, you'll go and face the champion, which is, hey, I know that guy. Your bud Blue, or Gary, or I don't know, reached the title of champion first, so you gotta beat him. After that, you become the champion and credits roll. That's the story. Some consider the stories not that really much of a strong suit of the game or the franchise really, but I'm not the kind of person to be overly critical of a game story. It's a fine story where things happen, though I would be lying if I said it didn't engage me. The protagonist, Red, is pretty much a blank slate since it's supposed to be you as Red. It is a role-playing game after all, and I like to pretend that I'm me in the game, even now. Yeah, I know it sounds pretty childish, but I can't help it. It just feels right for me for some reason, and probably many others as well. It's fun being weird. The places you go are a bit mixed. The cycling path, geography-wise, feels off, And the caves like Mount Moon are a bit of a slog, but hey, at least the cities are fun. I like the gym leaders. There's Brock, Misty, LT Surge, Erica, Koga, Sabrina, Blaine, and finally Giovanni. I think it's interesting that the main villain is one of the gym leaders. Sabrina, Erica, and Koga have pretty cool designs with their pixel art. Brock and Misty in the anime are iconic at least, and the rest, they're alright. The gameplay is pretty simple by today's standards. The ordinary turn-based RPG formula. You select the attack and wait for the opponent to attack back. You can switch other Pokemon you have, or if you're battling a wild Pokemon, you can catch it as well. Everyone knows that at this point. RPGs are pretty common on handheld consoles. Though way older games do that formula of catching monsters like Shin Megami Tensei, for example. I don't think it means Pokemon is unoriginal for it, since while in Megaton you negotiate with demons and convince them to join you, while in Pokemon you catch funny creatures, evolve them, or even trade them. Don't get me wrong, I love Megaton, though when it comes to exploring, Pokemon is less confusing to me. I mean, yeah, Pokemon is a game for everyone, but still. While they may be pretty mad now, Pokemon Red and Blue offer a charming nostalgic experience for players who grew up with the series. Oh yeah, Gen 1 gets shoved in our faces like crazy, but I mean hey, Nintendo franchises are known to add in from older games. It's what made Pokemon popular as ever, not just a dumb anime kid. We can bash about Gen 1 and Gen 1ers all we want, but now it's pretty much like beating up a dead horse. Which is probably why I think everyone doesn't really talk about Red and Blue alike with first games of other franchises like Mario or Zelda, because of the stigma around them, which kinda stinks since, well, I don't want a game to be ruined for me just because a group of people from years ago said it was way better than the stinky new games. Long story short, yeah, the pandering of Gen 1 is quite tacky, but we gotta understand how Gen 1 did for the series as a whole. But how do these games hold up today? Oh yeah, they're pretty dated. The game has some issues here and there, but I think the most important thing about the games is not how the game holds up, but how the game feels, meaning the impact it had, and it being the first game of a franchise I grown up with. And that's what I find special about Pokemon Red and Blue. Well yeah, Game Freak and Nintendo shoving Kanto everywhere may get a bit redundant and annoying. They're just games that were popular at the end of the day. They have a reason to mention it a bunch. Either that or I'm used to it. Plus, they're going with games from the DS era to use as nostalgia bait. And people love that era, so hey, there's that. Nostalgia is a powerful thing. It's why we get excited when we hear a song from years ago. It's why we still have that one thing from our childhood tucked away in a box somewhere. Now don't get me wrong, it's not really a good idea to be blinded by nostalgia, but that's how people work sometimes. Even though I didn't grow up playing Pokemon Red and Blue, there's something magical about experiencing these classic games for the first time back in 2016. Overall, Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow are classic games that in retrospect haven't stood the test of time, but created a sense of community to a bunch of players from the 90s and even now, and it was the beginning of an engaging RPG experience, and we cannot forget that. Oh yeah, we cannot forget about the sequel Pokemon Gold and Silver, but I think those are topics for later. So yeah, that's my talk about a silly game about silly creatures. I'll be going now. See ya.